Hello. We're
Hello,
back at
hello.
it. Today is an exciting one, at least for me, because we get to talk about the Enneagram. Woohoo.
Ooh,
We'll do our introduce our own Enneagrams, what the Enneagram is for those who don't know what it is. But before we deep dive into that, hi, my name is Yehna
Hi, I'm Jessie, and welcome to our third episode of
at
At
the
the
table.
Table.
Woohoo.
Yana, how are you feeling? You are like smiling from ear to ear.
I'm excited. I love the Enneagram. I know there's a lot of thoughts on it because it is like so called the personality test and it feels shallow, but I've come to really love it to the point that I'm like working on a certification, side plug,
Just
but
plug.
just side things. But so I'm really excited to share this whole concept with you all.
Yes. And like throughout the podcast, guys, you will hear Yana become like her, you can tell her voice will become more and more like herself. Um, and then for me, just depending on the day, I will sound like I have allergies and I'm dying, or, I'll sound really nasally. So that's like kind of how we're rolling here. But
Allergy girls, let's go. I love
yes.
it. All
So
right.
just, you know, giving you a rundown of what we're talking about, we're just gonna give a brief oh my gosh, explanation of how we discovered the Enneagram.
It's a Friday.
It's been a long week. Oh my gosh. And why we love the Enneagram and kind of describing like Yena's type, my type, just our own stories of it. But Yena, since you are trying to be certified in becoming an Enneagram specialist or an Enneagram coach, please, for the both of us, explain how, well, I guess you share, how did you discover the Enneagram? Because mine's a little
Okay.
different.
Yes. Okay. For me, it's if you know me, I love anything personality test. I will do the MBTI. I did the Enneagram. I did Strength Finders. Granted, Strength Finders was kind of like I had to because I was in a leadership program. But either way, I was so excited. I love anything that has to do with like getting to know myself and figuring out why I think a certain way. Anyway, so in our college, Wheaton, there was like a period where the Enneagram kind of blew up and it was kind of like posted all over our campus. And that was when I first like got to know it, but I didn't like take it immediately. I was kind of at that point where I was like, anything Wheaton, I'm like, I don't want to be involved. Anyway, sidetrack. But that's kind of how I first saw it. And then I think when I then took it, it was just kind of like a fun thing. I didn't think much about it. But I think it was starting my senior year of college where I got really into it. And I remember, I forgot where it was, but it was either an Instagram or some video I saw. And they were like, yeah. And I coach using the Enneagram, or like, I was like, this is
That's
a
a thing?
career? No way. And so that's when I like deep dive into this whole thing and discovered that there was just so much more than those like cute little infographics or like graphic organizers where it talks about like if you're 8, you're some sort of golden retriever. Like I love those things,
Those cute posts,
but
yeah.
I realized, wow, there's so much more than that. Anyway, long story short, I got super drawn into it, did so much more research, and everything about it was so, it just like helped my dream make sense and like into a reality. Found anything where I could train in it, if there was like a school for it. And then I found this program through a podcasters out there. And so, yeah. And so that's how I'm here.
And the journey continues, right, for Yenna? You're still in the process of like getting that official
Yes.
certification. But that's also what led to like, oh, we should do a podcast too.
Yes, I know. It's
Yes. Um, just a brief intro for me. I mean, I've clearly you guys can tell Yena's like super into this. Not that I'm not as into it. I just like wasn't as interested at first because I did the MBTI in high school, and then a couple of my friends were like, "Oh, you should take the Enneagram." I took it and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this thing knows me. Like everything that they're describing is so accurate. Like my pride hurts, and I also don't want to admit to many of the things they're saying about me and all that stuff." Um, but it was really this year again because on a growth journey this year, but I just started to really click with it. And it opened my eyes because I think I was only interested in my own Enneagram, if I'm not,
I
if
mean,
I'm
hey, that's how it all start.
being
Same.
completely honest. I was only interested in tell me what I need to know slash don't want to hear, but need to hear.
Right.
But as I was starting to find interest in other Enneagrams, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of my friend, I don't know, Emily. This reminds me of my friend Ashley. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this makes so much more sense on how I can love them well, understand them well, and be a better friend.
Right.
And yeah, I would say that's what really sparked the interest of like the relational. I'm very into like connection and like relationships. And
I mean, it makes
it gave
sense.
me, yes, it gave me a tool to be like, gotcha, that's where they're coming from. They don't mean to come off this way, but this
Right.
tool helps me. So I've genuinely just love and support it. And Yena gives me little like pep talks here and there about, you're this way because, or this Enneagram with this type. Like,
Right.
anyway. So why this we kind of already glanced over it, but why do we love the Enneagram? Why do you, Yena, love the Enneagram?
Right. I mean, Jessie explained it so well. It's really about better understanding someone. And I want to say this really carefully because I don't want to say, okay, oh, you're a 4. Now I know everything about you. That's not at all what I'm saying. Of course, granted, when I first began, I was a little prideful about that. And I think as I was learning more about it, I was very humbled because I was like, oh, that is not how you to use the Enneagram at all. But anyway, it's so that I am able to better understand their communication style, how they are reciprocating certain information, reacting to certain maybe hurts in their life. And yes, this
Mm,
is not a deep dive of someone's trauma and it shouldn't be used that way, but it also gives insight to why someone might have responded or not responded a certain way that you might have wanted them to. And so overall, it just, you grow to have more compassion for people that may think you thought similarly to you or thought
mm.
completely just a different world out there thought process and thinking, why does this person not think the way I think, and realizing you're not God. The world doesn't revolve around you. And so it's humbling as much as I don't want to like admit it. And I wish I was this wonderful, emotionally intelligent person. But in reality is that we're just so wired differently, and coming through the Enneagram, I've come to love that about people because then I'm able to learn more about how people think and see the world. So that's why I love the Enneagram so much.
If only everyone thought the way that I
I
thought so
did.
that everything makes sense and everything agrees with.
Honestly, but just kidding.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that. I'm just like, why don't you think the way that I think?
Right.
Clearly, my no. And it's,
No, same.
it's been a
But
humbling experience for
for
sure
sure.
that the world does not revolve around me.
No, not that I wanted it to, but subconsciously
Exactly.
we do.
Like your
So
brain just like, you're like, you have to
yeah.
catch yourself like, oh, shoot, that was not what I was planning on
Mm-mm.
doing. But that's where my
Right.
sinful nature just like went.
Right.
Yes. So I know Yana kind of just like gave a little disclaimer about, okay, like we're not experts. We're, we understand that this is not the Bible. Like this is just a tool to help us understand
Right.
relationships and who we are and where we're coming from and where others are coming from. So we're going to just cover our Enneagram types just to give y'all an explanation of just a brief explanation of who we are, to
Mm-hmm.
give you more of an overall,
Yes.
summary. So Yana, could you explain like a explanation? I keep saying explanation. Oh my gosh. Can
No,
you
it's
give
okay.
us?
But before I do that, I want you
Yes.
to introduce your own type first, and then I'll start with the definition of ours.
You want me to butcher my Enneagram type?
No, no, just say the number, and then I'll
Oh,
I'll
okay.
I'll go through the type for you.
I was like, I cannot explain my type well.
I'm sure you can, but I'll do it for you.
Woo. Yes, please do it for me. So I am an Enneagram 2, in a two, so two wing one. I don't know if we probably won't go into
A little
depth
bit,
about the
yeah.
wings, but I am a textbook 2, truly like a textbook 2. Yana, what about you?
I am a 9 wing one, so we honestly because initially, if you look at us, we're very similar, just like, and
From the
then
surface, right?
surface. And honestly,
Mhm.
I thought we were this very similar people. And then we started talking, and I'm like, why
I
are you
remember.
like this?
Remember when we were in Hawaii and we were like talking till 1 a.m. because we were trying to understand like why we
I
think the way that we do. And we
Yes,
just kept, we were sitting, we were like, we're going to talk this through because I don't agree with
I
what you're saying
remember
about
that.
yourself.
I think it was triggered by, like, we were doing a reflection question. And I was really trying. So this is me trying to be a better reflection person. I'll get into that later. But I was like, oh, I don't like that question because I don't need to work on it. Because, and it was weird because I just said it like that so confidently. And I think you took it as, we still need to work on it. But what I meant was, I recently was self-aware of it. So I wanted to do something where I've not thought about it. And then that
Right, right.
spiraled into this whole discussion of, why do you think like that? And why do you think like that? And it was not a bad moment. It was actually such
No,
a good moment to
eye
realize,
opening.
yeah, that yes, our faces might look similar, but oh, wow, our core motivations, which is a big Enneagram language, is so different.
Mhm.
Anyway, getting into it, talking about the core motivations, I'm going to briefly go over first the 2 and 9. I'm going to go in numerical order. For the 2, the biggest thing is their biggest, what do you call this? Core fears, is being rejected and unwanted, being thought worthless, needy, inconsistent. I can't read that. Basically, it's someone who just like feels like they don't want to be indispensable. They want to be needed and seen as
Mhm.
worthy of love. Like they're just like so afraid that they're gonna be seen as unloved is the biggest thing. And so leading to that, their core desire is to be appreciated, loved, and wanted. And that really comes out, by being, their name is a helper or the supportive advisor. So someone who's just is willing to honestly sacrifice themselves for your needs. And a really great visual that it is from a lyric from Sleeping at Last, which you guys should listen
Oh, so
to.
good. So good.
There's a one part where he talks about how, I don't want to be the first person to put the mask on in the airplane, or when they say in emergency the oxygen mask comes down, you need to be the one who puts it on before you can help someone else. But as a 2, you're like, what the,
Why?
no way, why would, I'm not that important. But so leading to that, which is so ironic, the core weakness of a 2 is pride. Denying your own needs and emotions while using your strong intuition to discover and focus on the emotions, needs of others, confidently inserting your helpful support in hopes that others will say how grateful they are for your thoughtful care. So it's so interesting. The thing that you desire most is actually causing a 2 to push that away. Because they're like, I'm here. What do you need? And they're like, oh, we need you
Yep.
sometimes, but not all the time about everything. And
It sounds like smothering.
I wasn't gonna say it. But it's not because they're trying to be malicious. I mean, obviously, look at Jessie. She doesn't look like she's gonna cut your throat or something. But because their intuition for other people's needs is so high, they almost like forget their own. And
Yeah,
so
that's a
in
good word.
doing that, they almost associate other person's needs as their identity. And so when that is taken away from them, they are going to rip everything open to get that message of you're loved and you're wanted, which is so there. Then that leads to our core longing, or as in two's core longing is that you are wanted and loved, and we really need to focus that core longing to be heard not from people but from God. And so that's really the message we need to, that twos shouldn't not search for, but they need to know where to search that like message from. This core message should not be from your mom, your dad, your friends, or your pastor, or your coworkers, or your boss. It should be from your creator, the one who truly loves you and wanted to die for
Amen.
you. And so that's just kind of a brief overview of a two.
Brief
And
but not brief, because we can go forever about
I was trying, but
I love how passionate you get.
it's just so great because I talk about this with Jessie openly all the time, but unfortunately I had a lot of like not so great thoughts about twos. But anyway, but I think through her being my friend, I wanted to discover it more. I have an issue where something rubs me the wrong way, I will neglect it for a bit. But at this point, I couldn't, because I wanted to get to know Jessie more, and we were talking about it. And I'm not gonna avoid the two just because I had an issue about it. And so as I'm learning about it, I'm like, wow,
Twos can be great.
they're
too.
amazing. Because
Question mark.
granted, my mom is also two, so I can't neglect that. I love my mom. So anywho, twos are awesome. I can say it now.
Thank you. Thank you. I know. I'm thinking like because you gave such a good description of twos, like maybe we can touch on how like a little bit about how that like relates to my experience slash like
Right.
and then we can move on to
I
the
love that.
9 because I
Yes.
think you can also add to
Yes.
who I am, I guess. I think you have a good view of like you know me well and you can
Yes.
like
I
describe
know.
me
I'm still
well.
getting to know her. We're still getting to know each other.
We're like a thick onion. Like we've maybe peeled like 40% of
Wow,
our
that's a lot. That's
layers.
a lot.
Why you have more layers on?
I don't know.
I just threw that number out, but I'm like, shoot, maybe I should have said like 20.
No, I
No, I'm
think 40 is
kidding.
good.
I'd say
Anyway,
40.
I believe
Anyway,
it, even for
yeah.
myself. I think
Yeah,
more.
but it's taken a long time to get there. That's
Yes.
what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I agree.
Yes. Well, contrary to what Yena said, I thought twos were great. I like
Hey,
loved being a two, clearly like my pride. Well,
no,
it's
I
just
love it.
that's just what I've grown up with. Obviously, there's a lot of generational things that have been passed down, but my mom grew up as a PK daughter. So my grandma was a pastor's wife. My dad's side, they're all missionaries. And, so I grew up in a missionary family and it's all about service. It's all about
Right.
service. So, I live my life at watching, what was modeled to me. So
Mhm.
that was the way to live, right? So I do resonate with a lot of what Yena said about the twos. One thing I do love about being a two is just the heart. Like I
Mhm.
think I think what really bothers me is when I am being misunderstood. Because if you know me, like I never, ever, ever will have any malicious intent or any
Right.
like ill will towards someone. Like my actions are always out of love, but my delivery of it and my communication of it needs
Mm,
to be adjusted, or I need to be more aware of how I'm being
right.
received. And so when someone takes it in a way that makes me be this like horrible person, like that really hurts me and it really affects me because
Right.
obviously I care so much about what people think of me too.
Right.
So I think, but at the same time, I love that behind the, or at least for me, like behind everything, like I just truly genuinely care. Like I just care. I feel like I care too much, but I care. And then one thing that I get frustrated about my Enneagram type is probably that I crave connection. Like I crave
Mm,
to be known so badly, yet I make it impossible for people to know me and
right.
to love me for who I am. And
Mm,
obviously that's like probably a trauma response. And there's a lot of things that need to be unpacked there. But it's so frustrating because like I'm like, I want you to get me. I want you to want to know me.
right.
Yet I'm always putting the focus on them and not me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
never giving them an opportunity to ask me a question or to let my like I don't let myself be known.
Right.
Um,
And
yeah.
it's kind of funny. It's that concept. It's so contrary because we think we're putting them in the spotlight. They'll love that. But in reality, it's like, that's not fair for example, if she did that to me, and I'm like, that's not fair for me because I want to get to know you, Jessie, just as much as you want to get
Mhm.
to know me. And you need to allow me to have that opportunity to love on you. And so that way, maybe that person wants to serve too, and they feel loved by serving Jessie. And so
Mhm.
it's weird. It's like contradicting, and it's so true. Like, I don't think Jessie ever means anything maliciously, but it's unfortunate sometimes we just see the action, not the intention.
Right.
Yeah, quoting Jessie's dad. So right.
Yes, honestly, that was like a game changer. I'm like, why didn't I? Yeah. I really this is an important question, What do you think? Do you think the
Mm,
intention, because I remember talking to someone and he said it doesn't matter what the intention is. The action is what matters. And if the action speaks louder than words. And I'm like, I totally disagree with you, but okay. But what do you think of that? Like, because that opened my eyes to like, wow, people just see the action and I
I'm
guess
only
that's all
laughing
that
because
matters, question mark?
the first thing that popped into my head was, well, that really depends. And that's like the most nine thing I'll ever say. But
But it does
it
depend. It
depends.
really
Yeah.
does. I don't know. What's your take on that? And then we can move on to your Enneagram.
Look at her. She's trying to turn it around.
I
Anyway,
know.
that's hard because, like, in this moment, when I said that, I really meant that. I would very much want people to see what my intentions were. But at the same time, I know that the delivery carries
Mm-hmm.
a lot of weight, probably more weight than it really should.
Right.
For example, my intentions were to, for example, if I were to love on someone and I wanted to help them with cleaning their desk, is kind of a real life example, but I cleaned their desk because I was like, it's such a mess. I would be so stressed out if I worked in this kind of environment. It's kind of ironic. My desk is a mess right now. That is why my camera is up here. But for me, the desk kind of represents how I'm doing. And so I'm like, okay, I want to help this person. And then this person comes in and they're like furious. I'm like, what the heck? I did something good for them. And they're like, I liked it the way it was. And so unfortunately, even though my actions would have been is good and my intentions was to be of service, someone might be like, you didn't communicate with me what my needs were. I was
Mm,
so fast and quick to think I wanted to do something for them so that
mm,
I, in a sense, I look good, right? And so
mm.
it's not a very good example, but it's
No,
just,
that was good.
I think that's why really it's unfortunate that the action carries that much weight, and in a lot of times the actions correlate with the intention, but I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's why I asked you because I think recently it that was a huge turning point in for me in forgive and when it comes to forgiveness, like
Right.
I only saw the action and I could not focus about anything beyond the action and how much
Mm,
it had hurt me.
right.
And when I really just put down my pride, put down all of my hurt aside, just set it aside for a moment and see the intention behind what that person was trying to do. Like you realize, wow, he or she never meant to hurt me to this extent.
Mm,
It's their own context where they're coming from. Like the delivery just, they couldn't see beyond just what they needed to do.
right.
And unfortunately, their delivery was very hurtful,
Right.
but they
No.
never meant to hurt me in that capacity. So like
Right.
just that putting that into perspective has allowed me to find a lot of healing and forgiveness. But
Mm.
anyway, I feel like we're jumping all over the place.
Sorry. No, I love it. I love this
No,
conversation.
yeah,
No.
just a lot to think about. I don't know.
Mhm.
Overall, I love being a two and what that means. And I'm loving exploring more about even the wings and like how I am responding to like my trauma and how that's affecting my relationships now. It's been a very good learning experience. So,
Yay.
but yes,
I could go
Yenna.
on and on about it, but okay.
Yes. But then we have to go to yours and then watch you make it like 30 seconds brief. Tell us about the nines. I love nines. Everyone loves nines. But please
Okay.
give me an explanation.
The nine. Okay. Definition of a nine. So nine is a peacemaker or the mediator, or the called the peaceful mediator. There's like a million names out there. But basically our core fear is being in conflict, tension or discord, feeling shut out and overlooked, losing connection and relationship with others. Um, I think when it comes to like conflict, it's not just like argument or fighting. Sometimes I immediately think that way, but which is also that, but it also has to do with even like the dumbest things. And I hate to admit it, but it's like, for example, if they come to me and they're like, Yehna, do you want Subway or sushi? I'm like,
Oh no.
and immediately in my head, I'm like, okay, let's look at that person's face. What do they want? And I'm literally sitting there contemplating, how can I read their mind and think, what will they want to hear from me? And
Mm.
and it's so terrible because then it causes them frustration because they simply just want to eat dinner. But I'm over here like,
Yeah.
what are they thinking about? Anyway, so it can like vary from like a full-blown conflict of arguing and being in disagreement, but it can also come down to just making a simple dinner decision. Anyway, and then our core longing is having inner stability and peace of mind. And so is literally straightforward, wanting peace. Sometimes we strive for this peace in a superficial way by avoiding. And
Mm.
so it's really learning to find peace, like true peace. And
Mhm.
sometimes peace is not a standstill word. It's an action word, which is really difficult. I don't want to know that. But anyway, our core sin, or what do they also call it, the core weakness, yes, core weakness is sloth, remaining in an unrealistic and idealistic world in order to keep the peace, remain easygoing and not be disturbed by your anger, falling asleep to your passions, abilities, desires, needs, and worth by merging with others to keep peace and harmony. Yeah. I think it's basically the simple way of saying it is I want to avoid anything, everything, just anything possible that will disrupt anything. For example, if someone were to come to me and I know in their face they're about to ask me a question about what I want to eat for dinner, I'm gonna run away. Uh, it's gotten better. It's
I was
gotten
gonna
better.
say, like a good typical nine explanation of Yana is like, Yana will be like, oh, like I slept 2 hours yesterday and the day before. I'll get my life together. And she's like texting me at 2 a.m. and definitely not gonna sleep for more than 2 hours that night as well. You're like, yeah, I'll figure it out. later.
later.
That's
I
like a
just
good yena.
and it's also like it's funny because I would say that, and because I also don't want Jessie to be worried that worried about me, and so that's me trying to like not create this conflict and tension for her to feel like she needs to like help me, and I'm like, we're good. Stay
Everything's good. I'll
away.
do it. I'll do it eventually. Yeah. Don't worry. I got
Why
it.
are we textbook or enneagram? Lord have mercy. Anyway,
Uh,
but yeah, so I don't want to go too much into it, but the enneagram as a whole is kind of, our numbers are split into 3 sections: the gut, the heart, and the head. And so for the 2s, they're in the heart triad, and for 9s, we're in the gut triad. So in the heart triad, they struggle with shame, and then for the gut triad, we struggle with anger. And the head triad, they struggle with anxiety. And so for me, it's super ironic is that as a 9, even though we're in the gut triad and our anger is like in the pit of it, we're asleep to it. Quite literally. We're not angry people. What the heck?
Yeah.
Why? But immediately, if someone were to touch my button, my mom calls me Hulk. And for a pretty good reason too. And so
Oh, that's so cute.
but yeah, it's just all the fun stuff. But it's just like learning to wake up is really what it is. It's learning to wake up from this unrealistic, idealistic world. And so the biggest thing we want to hear is that our presence matters and that we don't need to keep avoiding, and our words and our actions do matter to people. If we're in a meeting, I would be the person who's like writing things down because I don't want to share my opinion, but I kind of want to still be there. But there basically people would be telling me, or I mean, like I said before, I need to seek this message from God saying, God's like, I see you. I care about you as much as I care about everyone else here. I want you to use the gifts I gave you to make an impact in someone else's life. And so I can say this very easily now, but it was very difficult to even just like use this as a definition because I just felt so fake.
Well, I
But
was gonna ask you, like, what's something that you love about being a 9, and what's something that you can't stand about being a 9? Because I remember you gave me a good description. Like 2s forget their needs, and 9s erase their needs.
yes. So this is where we're so similar. Like we said, when we want to just serve, we want to love on people, and it comes out in a sense what we want is very similar, but the reasons why is different.
Right.
And then when it comes to our needs, it's like Jessie said, she forgot to put it on her reminder. And then she's like, and like couple days later, she's like, oh my gosh, I forgot to take the trash out. It's like that kind of forget. And then she like rewinds and does it. And as for 9, this is not, and this is a very like general, but in general for 9s, when we say it's gone, erased, it's not even in our mind to go and put it in the reminder.
Right. Like it's not even at that stage yet.
Yeah. It's like it's in oblivion. Like, oh, I'm a person that needs to live. What is that
And take care of myself.
Yes, and it sounds dramatic, and bless you. It sounds dramatic and crazy to even say that, but I think in hindsight, looking back, I'm like, whoa, I was allowed to feel and think those things. That's crazy. And even like doing this podcast is a like a milestone, because I'm essentially saying, guys, listen to me, please, because I think what I say matters. Shut up. Shut up, yet I can. And so, yeah, it's been a process getting to that point where I'm not frustrated at everything I do. Quite literally. Like I would go to simply meet with Jessie and I come back and I replay it in my mind. I'm like, that didn't even matter. Why did I say that? Like what? Like that's just gonna affect someone else. But or why did I share that? And I was so
Right.
dark for no reason. Like they don't need to know about why I'm struggling with sleeping, and I keep thinking like, why did they need to care about me essentially? But
Mm.
and so then I like get, in a sense, like it says, lazy because I don't want to figure it out.